For a couple of years, probably about 2 years, my family, we moved to the Upper Mojave Desert. And we lived there, and we had a big fence on the back of our property. And if you would have been able to look over the fence, what you would have seen as far as your eye could see was desert everywhere. It was barren, it was dry. But in contrast to that, every spring, my family would take us to Antelope Valley. It was about 15 minutes away, still in the same desert, and we would see it in bloom with poppies. And the reason that happened is because it was the springtime. I had a picture that I just looked at the other day, and it was a picture I took of my sister, and she's standing there in the poppies. And when I looked at it, it reminded me that even in the desert times in our life, that God wants to make a way for us, and he wants to make a way for us to flourish. I want to read Isaiah 43, 18 to 19. And this is what God says. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing, and now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. And our deserts can look different to each one of us. Maybe there's big disappointments. It could be a move. It could be a job. It could be a relationship. It could be finances. It could be anything. But the thing that's very similar in all of our deserts is that we often feel dry, and we feel alone, and we feel that God is far from us. The original audience for these verses were the Judeans. And you know what? Oftentimes we can be just like them. We can get stuck in the past. And they were always looking back to see what God had done. And what they were trying to do, they were trying to box God in and define what he was going to do in the future based on what he did in the past. But you know what God said? He said, there's no way that's not happening. He said, I am going to redefine what I want to do right now. I'm going to do it so amazing. The future is, in the past, what I did in the past is just going to pale in comparison. Psalm 137 really helps us to see how the Judeans felt. And it said that they sat and they wept. And they wept over the memory of everything that they had lost. And to that, Isaiah 43, 18 and 19 says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. So their identity, their whole culture was tied up in what had happened in the past. But God said, you know what? You're no longer back in Egypt. You're no longer just being released from Egypt. You're actually captive in Babylon. And I want to do something that fits the need that you have right now. Verse 19 says, see, I am doing a new thing. God was trying to get their attention. And the word see in Hebrew, what it really means in the context or in a sentence, it's saying there's something coming that you need to take notice. There's something that's changing. There's a shift that's happening. Look here, make sure that you don't miss it. God wants to do something new in your life, and he wants to do something new in my life. So then he goes on, and God says, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? There is uncontainable momentum to what God wants to do. It's already happening. It's building. Even if you don't see it, God is working in your wilderness. And when we say perceive, the word is not just perceive with your mind, but to really get it, have this really close understanding of what God is doing. And then God goes on to say, I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. It's not over yet. God is not bound. He's not held back by your experience. Oftentimes we think that in the wilderness, it's an obstacle to God working. It's completely the opposite of that. The desert is a place where God wants to work. It's a new defining moment is coming your way. When we moved back from California, we actually moved into a neighborhood, and there was an underground creek that went down the property line of our whole street. So it went down the property line, it came up at a certain point, went down, and then it flowed into the St. Lawrence River. My friends and I, we went looking for this water. And we'd go to where, probably 15 houses down from our house. We didn't know the people that were there. We'd sneak into their backyard. We'd go to the property line. and we'd look for this water, and we would kind of stay there and play with it or play there at it. One thing I know for sure is that there were so many adults on that street that never knew that there was a creek that ran through their property, and they didn't know that that little creek kind of bubbled up in a certain point. The reason that they didn't know is they never went looking for it. We went looking, and we found it, and we actually experienced what that was all about. I want to encourage you tonight, and I want to remind you that if there is a wasteland that you're going through, if there's a desert place that you're in, that God wants to work in your life. He's already working. He wants to do something incredible. And what you need to do is to stop looking back and to decide to look and to perceive what he's doing and to trust God and to believe that he is working in your desert.